Wow, this stuff is hot.
Welcome to Heat Check, where we meet people from across Duke's community as they test out their spice tolerance. I'm your host, Suraj, and thank you to Elijah's Extreme for providing us with the hot sauces that we're going to be using today. I also want to give a really big shout out to Speedy and El Forno for providing us with the wings that we're using today. Today we have a very special guest. Professor Fullenkamp has dedicated his career to teaching students and professionals the intricacies of financial markets, banking, and regulation. Outside of the classroom, he works as a guest columnist at the New York Times and a consultant for the International Monetary Fund, or IMF. His work has involved everything from developing financial markets to the importance of whales in carbon capture. Professor, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you.
Have you seen the show Hot Ones?
I have not.
This premise is very simple. We start off easy. We're starting on this side this time. And deeper into the interview we get, the spicier the wings are going to get.
Oh, good. The conversation will get spicier.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
So this first wing here is a pineapple mango sauce.
Ooh.
So, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Let's get into it.
Sounds really good.
This one's been a guest favorite, so I want to hear your thoughts on it.
I like the fruitiness of it. It's pleasant. Yeah.
To start off, I want to know a little bit about what drew you into the world of economics, and give me the rundown of how you ended up as a professor at Duke and a consultant at the IMF.
So, I was around, and it was like in junior high school or high school when we had the last big round of inflation. You know, back in the late 70s, early 80s, and I was just really fascinated at the time that nobody knew what to do about it. And then finally, they changed the leadership of the Fed, and the Fed finally had some ideas about how to conquer inflation, and the policies were really effective. Yeah, they plunged the economy into a recession, but inflation went down. They stayed the course, and inflation kept going down, and it was kind of a wildly successful policy. And I thought, gee, that looks like the type of thing that I'd really like to do, and I'd really like to work for the Fed someday. And that's really what got me into economics. So I went to college and majored in economics, and then went to graduate school intending to study macro and basically go to work at the Fed. It's kind of an accident that I ended up in academia. I met my wife in graduate school. She was finishing a PhD in organic chemistry, wanted to work in pharma. I wanted to work at the Fed. You can kind of imagine the Venn diagram doesn't have a big overlap.
Yeah.
So in order to be together, I decided to take an academic job, and that's where I ended up.
Mm-hmm. And what about the IMF? How did you end up there?
They started a new endeavor where they were going to teach finance courses to government officials. So they hired me as a consultant to help them develop a finance curriculum and then to deliver it around the world. And that's what I've been doing with them. And that basically coincides kind of with the time that I came to Duke. The work complements each other. It's really fun to go around and talk to government officials and see what the real problems are. Try to help them solve them when you can, but then bring that knowledge back to Duke. I have a lot more to talk about with students.
Gotcha.
And to help everybody understand how complex and interesting all the goings-on are.
Yeah. Are you ready to move on to the second wing?
I am. So what is this?
So this is a Reaper sauce. I think it has some bourbon in it, some cherry.
Oh.
So it's...
that makes it sound not lethal.
Yeah.
All right.
But it is still a Reaper sauce.
I can see the cherry. It looks good. Definitely feel the heat, but I like the cherry.
Mm-hmm. The students want to know. The prices at Woo have gone up a lot, and it's being dubbed Wooflation. So a meal that costed about $10 my freshman year probably costed about $13 now.
Yeah.
So we want to know, what are some of the factors that are playing a role in this increase in price?
Yeah, sure. Believe it or not, it really is true that ingredient inflation is a big part of the story. So one of the things that's been interesting about the post-pandemic inflation is that it has been in real basic commodities. Foodstuffs. So gas and groceries are really a big part of the inflation there. So it really is true that the costs at the Woo have gone up. Part of it also is what's happened to the labor market during the pandemic. It is plainly speaking, it is really hard to get employees who want to come to work and want to stay at work. And one of the ways that you induce them to do that is you drive wages up. That is a big part of the story as well. I would think that between those two costs, we're really talking about the vast majority of the inflation that we're seeing at the Woo.
Do you want to move to the third wing?
Yes, sure, he says. So what is this?
So this is a ghost pepper sauce.
Oh, ghost pepper sauce.
So these all have scary sounding names. So
yeah, I've heard about the ghost pepper.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's dig in. This is kind of where we wrap it up a little bit.
You know, we're crossing that threshold where there's just like more heat than real flavor there. Yeah.
So I want to switch gears a little bit here and talk about what you think about the future of cryptocurrency.
Oh, sure.
So there have obviously been the FTX scandal and the SEC's lawsuits of Binance and Coinbase, two of the biggest players in the area. And that has like decreased a lot of consumer trust within the crypto space.
Oh, yeah.
I want to get your thoughts about the significance of these trials and also your thoughts on the future of cryptocurrency.
Yeah. So the FTX trial is really a watershed in the sense that FTX was supposed to be the poster child for kind of responsible grown-up crypto, and then everything fell apart. So I think there's a feeling that if you can't trust SBF, then you can't really trust anyone in crypto, and that kind of sentiment I think is being borne out.
The spice guest here.
Yeah, no, it is. Binance is Binance is kind of on the run globally, and that's the other big crypto exchange, and they're implicated in lots of other kind of shady dealings, money laundering, terrorist financing, and so on. So the big question in my mind is, will crypto agree to be regulated like other financial products and services? If the answer is yes, then I think crypto has a future, a fairly bright future. But if not, crypto is going to be relegated to a niche product, and it's going to stick with the people who want to avoid regulation, avoid legality, and basically conceal what they're doing.
What about in terms of adoption of crypto throughout the world and other places that don't have the luxury of having as stable of a currency as we do here in the U.S.?
Well, so you raise a great point, which is exactly that. Parts of the crypto world, in particular stablecoins, can be an attractive alternative to currencies, especially if you're in a high inflation country or you are worried about fiscal policy, which can lead to hyperinflation. So in situations like that, crypto can offer a reasonable alternative.
And do you own any crypto?
I do not own any crypto that I know of.
Will you?
Probably not, unless, of course, stablecoins become highly regulated, and stablecoins become a standard medium by which people would do international transactions. So one of the big use cases for crypto is that our system of doing international transactions, trying to send money overseas, which is another thing that I study, it's incredibly cumbersome, time-consuming, and expensive. And that's because it relies on a network of banks. And the more banks you have involved, everybody's got to have a payday from that. Everybody's got to get a fee. And that's what naturally drives up the price of sending money overseas. So with something like a stablecoin, you can simplify the transaction down to a couple of different steps, vastly reduce the fees that are involved, and make it quicker and cheaper for everybody. And that's one of the attractions of things like stablecoins.
Gotcha. You ready for the fourth wing? How are you doing, by the way?
I'm doing okay, actually. I'm doing better than I thought I would do.
I'm definitely feeling the spice as well.
Oh, it definitely is, right? And you're going to see it on me, right? Because I've got no hair to cushion, or to hide the fact that sweat is starting to roll down my head, right?
So this fourth sauce is called Elijah's Extreme Regret. So it's got a great name to it.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? So let's taste what regret tastes like.
Yeah. Not so bad so far.
Not so bad. Yeah, it is regret, but not that extreme yet. This is not like a quantum leap. Maybe the last one is going to knock us off our feet here.
I wanted to switch gears also a little bit. I want to talk about the environment, and a lot of the work you do at the IMF has to do with policies to reduce our carbon footprint.
Sure.
What are some ways that we can align the incentives of companies and businesses with the goal of reducing our carbon emission?
So one of the main ways that I'm interested in is creating investable opportunities out of so-called natural capital. So natural assets like seagrass and salt marsh, even creatures like whales and elephants, play big roles in environmental services like carbon sequestration. And what we can do is try to market these services as an investment proposition. So we say, okay, we're going to restore this area of seagrass, or we're going to restore a certain number of forest elephants to the rainforest of Central Africa. They're going to enhance carbon sequestration. They're going to create more carbon sequestration than we had before. So let's sell credits based off of that.
No, I'm reaching for the milk as well.
Oh my gosh. It doesn't hit you right away. That's the thing. It kind of
creeps
gangs
up
up.
on
Yeah,
you.
it does. So what we're trying to do is create investment opportunities that then connect the financial markets that have all the money to invest with investable conservation projects around the world. And so that's where I come in here.
Can you talk more about the credit? I've heard of the word carbon credit thrown around.
Yeah, the carbon credit world is kind of a rough and tumble place these days, kind of the Wild West. The premise is really good, which is some companies cannot change the production overnight so that they can become more they can become carbon neutral. So they're going to do what they can, but in the meantime, they are going to reduce their carbon footprint, so to speak, by purchasing carbon credits or carbon offsets. That's a great idea in theory. In practice, it's become really, really messy. And again, it's because of the arrival of opportunistic players who say, oh, this is a great way to make a quick buck. I can promise you these carbon credits. I can set up this kind of ramshackle conservation program or program to save trees, and then kind of get a lot of money up front from that. And what we're finding, especially this past summer, is that a lot of these programs don't deliver nearly what they promise. And so that has really cast carbon credits in a very bad light. And so part of what I'm trying to do with my colleagues is try to reestablish that market on a really firm foundation where everything is transparent and everything can be checked up and everything is going to work the way people promise. That's going to take a lot of doing, frankly. But I think that's really one of the best hopes for nature and for carbon sequestration, because nature has a humongous capacity to sequester carbon. We also have this huge need to protect biodiversity, and we can do both things if we can get this system right that funnels money from the financial markets, from investors and savers, into these conservation and restoration programs for things like whales and elephants and seagrass and salt marsh.
What would you like to see as a price for like a ton of carbon emitted?
I would really love to see a fairly high price, but not one that's like absurdly high.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of an evasive answer, but it turns out that I did another piece of research recently with some colleagues that suggested that if you rely solely on carbon taxes, the price that you'd have to charge to get people to meaningfully reduce the amount of carbon emitted is just absurdly high.
Yeah.
So carbon taxes are definitely part of the picture because, if you put a tax on something, people will do it less. So having some kind of a price on carbon that makes people incorporate the cost of producing the carbon into their daily lives and their decisions is going to be great.
Okay.
But the last thing you want to do is impose lots of hardships on people.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm kind of trying to shoot for something in the happy middle. I'm not sure what that is. Could be $100 a ton, could be a little bit less, could be a little bit more. If you look at the price on the ETS market right now, for example, it's about 81 euros a ton.
Okay.
It's been over 100 euros a ton, but because of geopolitical reasons and other things, it's fallen back a little bit. But a lot of people expect carbon prices to go well above $100 a ton over the coming years.
And markets do a good job of finding that equilibrium point.
That's why we have markets.
Yeah.
I mean, they are really machines that try to calculate these prices. And in theory, at least, if you don't interfere with them, then they will produce prices that really do reflect kind of the aggregate of what society values something at. That's not to say the markets can do that always and everywhere. There are always lots of problems in the markets as well, especially ones that have to do with information.
Fair. All right. Number 5.
Number 5.
Let's do it.
Let's do it and see if we can still talk. Yeah, that's pretty nasty. That is just like nothing but hot and bitter.
Yeah, it's not good.
It's just there if you enjoy pain.
So for this 5th wing, we're going to do a rapid fire segment. I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and you answer with the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay,
are you ready?
Great. Yeah.
All right. Favorite journal or news outlet?
Oh, Wall Street Journal.
Favorite book?
Right now, I'd have to say the book I'm reading is called Müll. It's in German.
Okay. Favorite form of renewable energy?
Solar energy.
If you could only choose one for the rest of your life, and you have to choose one, Krat or Natty Light?
Okay. Oh, Natty Light. God.
I was told you have a strong aversion to both of them.
Oh, I have a strong version to both of those things, man. Oh, my God. You're going to make me drink cheap beer for the rest of my life. God, cheap beer over rot gut, I guess.
Okay, I agree. Okay. Teaching seniors or teaching freshmen?
Oh, that's so hard. I love them both so. Okay, I'll say teaching seniors, but that's only because I've taught them my entire career. I've only taught freshmen for about half my career.
I'm a senior, so I like that answer. All right, we're gonna get deeper into the rapid fire questions.
All right.
What is one of the most interesting or surprising findings in your research?
One of the most surprising findings is that immigrant remittances can actually impede economic growth. That was one of the things that really just startled people and really got our work a lot of attention.
Dream job if you were not involved with the economy at all?
Oh, I don't know. Television game show host.
That's a good one. Like Jeopardy or like...
Yeah, it'd be kind of fun.
Awesome. And then to end it off, what's your favorite part about being a Duke professor?
By far and away the students. Being with the students, hanging out with students, learning from students, and seeing you guys change and grow, develop, launch, and become, successful, wonderful people. That is by far the best part.
How are you doing with the spice?
Oh, it's miserable. Oh my God.
I'm struggling to get these questions out, and you've been doing an amazing job like answering the questions. So
I'm glad I haven't fallen over yet.
thank you so much to Elijah's Hot Sauces. Thank you to Il Forno. Thank you to Professor Fullenkamp, and thank you to all of you guys. You guys have made this an amazing operation, and I think he deserves a round of applause for that one.
Thanks, guys. It was a pleasure.
I appreciate you for coming on the show. I really
yeah, it's gladly done.